Thank you for joining us on our news desk on QTV. We take a look at our top stories. President Lungu has met with the Vedanta Resources Limited Chairman Anil Agwa over the liquidation of Concord mines. NDC President SUMBWE has challenged government to make public the bill of quantities BOQ and other documents to prove that the construction of Bangalore Regional Hospital will cost $11 million. And Agriculture Minister Michael Katombo has employed players in the maize and olive crop to help stabilize the increase in minimum prices in the country. For the news in detail, my name is Diana SUMBWE. Vedanta Resources Limited Chairman Anil Agwa, who is in the country, has met with President Lungu over the liquidation of Concord mines KCM. Mr. Agwa, whose company Vedanta Resources owned 79.4% majority stake in KCM until the liquidation of the mine for failing to meet its financial obligations, met President Lungu at State House in the morning. Special Assistant to the President for Press and Public Relations Isaac Chipampe has told Q News in a phone interview that the meeting between the President and Mr. Agwa does not change anything with regards to the status of KCM. Mr. Chipampe adds that there will be no further meeting between the President and Vedanta over the KCM issue. And government has been locked in a legal battle with Vedanta Resources over the liquidation of Konkola copper mines. In the ongoing court proceedings, High Court Judge Anesi Bobo Banda has set 26 August as the date for ruling on an application by the directors of KCM to be represented in the winding up proceedings by Nchito and Chito advocates. She has also set 27th August 2019 as the date for hearing additional preliminary arguments as well as the full KCM winding up application. National Democratic Congress NDC President SUMBWE has challenged government to publicize the Bill of Quantities BOQ and the tender documents to prove that the construction of Bangalore Regional Hospital in Northern Province is costing $11 million United States dollars. Recently, Mr. Kambwili questioned the cost of constructing the hospital, which he claimed was $154 million United States dollars. However, on Tuesday, the Minister of Health clarified that the cost for the construction of Bangalore Hospital is $154,174,340 kwacha 72 ngwe and not $154 million United States dollars. But Dr. Kambwili has insisted that the hospital's construction cost is $154 million. He has told journalists in Wansha that he has figures from reliable sources who told him the correct figures. Dr. Kambwili says if indeed the Bangalore Regional Hospital is costing $11 million, government should consider arresting all those who tendered for the general hospitals in Lusaka, Chief Kalindawalo's chiefdom and Chinsali, which are costing $34 million each with all the equipment.
I insist that Bangalore Hospital, the cost is $154 million. And the job of the opposition is to provide checks and balances. I'm extremely disappointed that they are caused and people rushing to the police to say go and arrest SUMBWE for telling you the truth about the hospital. Inena alinyeba nalishimpula ngomusunga mfwayafyo kwa kushomutwe but shinkanka fuila. You can send 50 people to go and report to the hospital. And after all, I'm not surprised because this President Edgar Lungu was the first to say these who are alleging that there is corruption in my government policy, you must arrest them. So we know that all those people, Peter Chanda, they call him Peter Chanda, new Congress party, Sunday Chanda, and those who are saying we are going to report Kambwili to the police, go and report to the police. I am big enough to defend myself. And I'm ready for you. I have got these figures from reliable sources. I don't cook up figures. One thing you should not forget is that you PF government, you are very unpopular among the civil servants. And it is the same civil servants who are giving us the information of how you are stealing. So be careful.
Meanwhile, Dr. Kambwili has called on the Copperbelt University management to do away with the 1,500 kwacha surcharge on students.
This idea of asking CBU students to pay 1,500 must be abolished or stopped with immediate effect. We have over 1,000 students at SUMBWE. If they pay 1,500 each, it simply means the university is going to raise close to 20 million. If we have to put it at a minimum of 1,000 students, you are talking of 15 million kwacha, isn't it? 15 million kwacha, that is the cost of building a hospital. The Michael Sata Hospital in Mpika, the hospital that President Edgar Lungu went to open in Mungwe district, Kwachitimgulu, costed 11 million kwacha. You want to collect 15, 20 million kwacha from poor students. And how do you expect those students to pay? Because you are the people through bursaries who pays their tuition, you pay for their accommodation. Now, where are they going to get 1,500? The poor people. I'm calling upon the management at SUMBWE to stop this unreasonable charge. Let the children go back to school unconditionally.
Agriculture Minister Michael Katambo has implored players in the maize value chain to help stabilize increasing minimum prices in the country. Speaking in Osaka during a maize industry stakeholders consultative meeting to discuss the escalating minimum prices, Mr. Katambo says the escalating cost of minimum is worrying and requires urgent attention. He says prices countrywide cannot continue with business as usual, stressing the need to implement effective options to cushion minimum prices. Mr. Katambo says government is convinced that the traditional way of offloading subsidized maize from the Food Reserve Agency does not work, is not sustainable, and has been responsible to a large extent for the destruction of the maize industry. He states that millers who benefit from the subsidized maize do not pass on the benefit to the Zambian consumers. The minister is hopeful that the stakeholders meeting will culminate into solutions that will address the escalating minimum prices in the country.
And to be honest with you, time has now come to take the issue of strategic reserves very seriously in view of climate change, which is here to stay. Zambia must always have sufficient maize reserves for the difficult times, and we should not be offloading maize from the Food Reserve Agency or from our strategic reserves anyhow, as if FRA is a trading company. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we cannot continue with business as usual. Let us call a spade and agree that it is time to implement other effective options or opinions of cushioning minimum prices. Effective options are needed, like yesterday, for one simple reason, that is because the current year is unique and unusual. As you all know, the reduced maize supply due to the dry spells experienced during the 2018-2019 season has brought many challenges which need to be resolved as a matter of urgency. One of such challenges is the resultant high maize and minimum prices, which are expected to characterize the whole period until the next maize harvest. The escalating cost of minimum is an issue that concerns government and requires urgent action. The rate at which the minimum prices are going up is very worrying because it is gradually becoming unaffordable for many of our people. There is also a likelihood that these high prices may be caused by speculation and also players in the industry taking advantage of the circumstances and exploiting the Zambian consumer.
And various stakeholders at the meeting, who included the Zambia National Farmers Union, Millers Association of Zambia and grain traders, among others, gave their views on the escalating minimum prices.
Minister, may I admit that the policies that your government has put in place are very, very conducive, very good policies. The issue is consistency and implementation. Now, I would like to make this call through you, Minister, and maybe the Minister of Finance or the Republican President, that we need to look at Ministry of Agriculture as also another key and very important ministry in as far as governance is concerned. By that, Minister, I'm very aware that the extension officers under the Ministry of Agriculture are few, and as such, would like to make a call that the same way Ministry of Education is given funding to recruit teachers, should be the same way that Ministry of Agriculture should be considered to employ extension officers.
But representing the small-scale farmers, I think government should look at increasing the extension workers on the ground who can help with the farmers, especially the small-scale farmers who have not had been rendered the help that they need, because the extension workers that are there right now are not able to cover as many farmers as possible.
So the arguments of demand and supply are at play, and we cannot change that fact. The only way we can change that is through the social mitigating factors, and that's what probably we should focus on discussing and see how, as players in the sector, can assist or deal with our economy, bearing in mind that there's the vulnerable people in our society. Otherwise, we all look at profitability. Reasonably, we also have a social corporate responsibility. We wouldn't want anyone to suffer in terms of high prices.
The Ministry of Land says only 477 hectares of land has been degazetted in Forestry number 27 of Lusaka East for developmental activities. Permanent Secretary Ndashe Yumba says 716 hectares has been retained to prevent the drying up of the Chalimbana River and its distributaries. Speaking at a media briefing, Mr. Yumba says the degazetting of part of the forest has resulted in the creation of 334 plots. Mr. Yumba says the plots have since been allocated to members of the public of various categories.
In the process of excising that portion of land, there's been argument that environmental concerns were not taken into account. What has happened is that 716 hectares of Forest 27 have been retained to ensure that the headwaters of the Chalimbana River and all its tributaries are not affected by the developments that will take place in the area. I now move on to issues of land administration.
Speaking at the same media briefing, Commissioner of Lands George Sindila stated that it is not mandatory to advertise land that has been exercised for developmental activities. Mr. Sindila says the Commission of Lands receives thousands of applications for land allocations on a daily basis and therefore cannot advertise plots each time they are available for allocation.
One of the issues that has been floating around in the public domain is that the allocation of the plots at the state were not advertised. Let me make it very clear that the Commission of Lands is not obliged to advertise the plots. For the simple reason that we receive so many applications on a daily basis. Even as we speak right now, we've got thousands of applications sitting with us. In the case that we've got 50 plots, surely is it advisable for us to advertise 50 plots when we already have thousands of applications sitting in our offices? I would like to believe the answer should be no. At the same time, we've got a lot of cases that are coming from the courts where litigants take each other to courts, and the courts order the Commission of Lands to provide alternative parcels of land as a way of resolving some of these court matters. So on a daily basis, we do have cases that are sitting and waiting for land to be available to resolve these matters which are before the courts of the law. So in terms of advertisement, let's make it very clear, the Commission of Lands is not obliged to advertise land.
Vice President Inongewina says the youth should not be relegated to the sidelines and excluded from having a say in decisions that will affect their lives. Speaking when she officially opened the 2019 Terrenal Conference and Council of the Global Fellowship of Christian Youth at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross in Lusaka, Ms. Wina says more often than not, the youth are not effectively consulted and given appropriate space to air their views. She says the theme for the conference, which is becoming a strong voice in society and for having by youth to give and get space, is timely as it calls upon those in leadership positions not to view the youth as a homogeneous constituency, but to recognize that they have different needs across cultures, societies, and countries. Ms. Wina states that this calls for the youth to be provided with safe spaces to enable them actively share experiences and provide solutions to their own challenges. The Vice President notes that youth issues have increasingly become topical in view of their sheer numbers and realization that the lack of effective participation of the youth is detrimental to all regardless of age.
Therefore, as we engage them, we need to take into account their diversity. This calls for the youth to be provided with safe spaces to enable them actively share experiences and provide solutions to their own challenges. I am therefore glad to note that this is an important topic that will be discussed during this conference. I'm aware that the Global Fellowship of Christian Youth was originally called the World Conference, and it was born out of the international work of the Boys Brigade in the United Kingdom. It is now an umbrella institution connecting 72 youth organizations in 68 countries around the world.
Speaking at the same event, Minister of Youth, Sport and Child Development Emmanuel Mlenga has advised the youth to be of good character and not allowed to be used by selfish politicians to advance their goals. Mr. Mlenga has also called on the church to teach humility to leaders on how they should conduct themselves so that they can pass on the good mantle to the younger generation.
Your Honor, allow me to seize this opportunity to echo the words of the preacher that as youths, as we advance this call, we should be of good character. We should be the salt and the light of the earth. We should not be used by selfish politicians to advance their personal goals. In doing what we are trying to do and achieve as youths, we should be of good character. And also the preacher, Your Honor, talked about faith, that we should have faith as David. David never insulted King Saul. He pursued his dream without injuring elders. Your Honor, and I would urge the Boys Brigade to teach humility to leaders, those who want to become presidents, to teach them humility, because we have seen leaders who are insulting the head of state, and many youths want to react to that, but
And Boys Brigade National Patron Andrew Kamanga has thanked government for its continued support towards the Boys Brigade in the country.
I have in mind, Your Honor, the issue of street kids, and the Boys Brigade of Zambia offers itself to assist the government in ensuring that we manage this scourge, because it is our moral duty to ensure that we do not leave this situation to continue at the way it's going. It is our prayer that platforms such as this conference will be encouraged in order to give young people an opportunity to be part of the decision-making process at a global level. It is our hope that our delegates will have a pleasant stay in Zambia and the objectives of this gathering will be met. Your Honor, the Boys Brigade of Zambia will continue to be part of this wonderful family, the Global Fellowship, and also be an effective channel for youth development by complementing government efforts in ensuring that the youths are properly nurtured.
Government has refuted media reports suggesting that Cabinet has awarded ministers a salary increment amidst austerity measures. Information and Broadcasting Services Permanent Secretary Chanda Kasolo says the media reports are being spread by deranged persons who want to mislead the public. Mr. Kasolo explains that salaries and allowances for ministers are actually provided for in statutes and that no statute has been issued to announce an increment of any sort. He has told QTV News that the payslips purported to belong to Fisheries and Livestock Minister which is being circulated on social media indicating an increment in allowances could have been forged. Mr. Kasolo states that had the said payslip been authentic, it would have been an illegal act to publish it in the manner it is being circulated on social media.
No, I would actually expect that the police have picked this up already, or security forces have picked this up already. They need to trace who obtained that or who printed that piece of paper, because it is just unbelievable that can happen. If it can happen to an honorable minister, what about the rest of us? I mean, it's unbelievable. It's so primitive to think that the correct thing is to try and print something that is very, very private. And I insist that anyone who is doing that is deranged. The brain is in the wrong part of their body. It really is disgusting.
The opposition UPND has welcomed the appointment of Patrick Shindano as the new Chief Elections Officer at the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ. UPND Secretary General Stephen Katuka says the party is very optimistic that Mr. Shindano will deliver in his new mandate. Mr. Katuka says the UPND is optimistic that Mr. Shindano's character and experience as an advocate of good governance will turn around the fortunes of the Electoral Commission of Zambia in regaining public confidence. He states that the UPND advises the new elections chief to take a holistic approach to matters of elections in the country and regain public confidence in an organization that remains at the pinnacle of the country's democracy and its values. Mr. Katuka says Mr. Shindano's appointment comes at a time when the organization needs to retain its credibility, which has been eroded in the recent past in the eyes of political players and the general public. He has since congratulated the former CSPR Executive Director on his appointment and asked him to hit the ground running in terms of elections management, voter registration and retention of public confidence. And the Non-Governmental Gender Organizations Coordinating Council, NGOCC, has congratulated Patrick Shindano on his appointment as the new Chief Electoral Officer for the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ. NGOCC Executive Director Ngwase Mwale says as the women's movement, they have no doubt that Mr. Shindano will provide the necessary leadership to the Commission, especially at this critical time when the country is preparing for the 2021 general election. Ms. Mwale says the NGOCC believes Mr. Shindano will use his wealth of experience in the civil society sector to galvanize and build the required credibility for the Commission to deliver free and fair elections. She says the women's movement looks forward to working with the Commission in the process of engendering the electoral processes, especially in so far as the enhancing women's participation and provision of gender disaggregated data at all levels of the Commission's operations, engagements and elections management. Meanwhile, Ms. Mwale has called on Higher Education Minister Brian Mushimba to intervene and ensure the 1,500 kwacha surcharge slapped on the students by the Copperbelt University management is reduced considering the current economic challenges many households are facing. The Copperbelt University is scheduled to open on the 19th of August 2019, and management has announced a 1,500 kwacha surcharge to be paid by each student for the damage caused to infrastructure following a riot by the students in April. But NGOCC Executive Director Ngwase Mwale says management should allow the students return to the university without facing the predicament of looking for the 1,500 kwacha, a situation that will result in some students not returning upon failing to find the money.
And the predicament that the students have found themselves in as a result of the closure is something that is worth looking at as a nation. It is important that our leaders should embrace the fact that education is the most important empowerment mechanism that any nation can give its citizens. So we are aware that the new minister is working hard to try and ensure that the long closure is actually addressed. And one of the things that we noted, which is a plight of many of the students, is the issue of the penalty fees. And considering the fact that student activism in terms of contributing to national development is one of the aspects that has been with us time memorial. Being a student, a former student myself, we do recognize that students do have a voice in terms of providing alternative thinking to how our national development is progressing. So in this regard, as NGOCC, we wish to appeal to the Minister to just reconsider the aspects of penalties so that that can be uplifted to allow the students get back to the university without facing the predicament of looking for the resources. And besides, I think these times of economic crisis, many of the households and indeed parents to many of our students are really, going through a very difficult economic situation. So it's in this regard that we.
The Lusaka City Council LCC is considering migrating from using metal plate graves marks to concrete ones. Lusaka City Council Public Relations Manager George Sichimba explains that this consideration has been necessitated by the rampant theft of metal grave marks which are being sold as scrap metal. Mr. Sichimba has explained that the rationale behind the migration is that concrete grave marks may not be stolen because a market for them may not be readily available. Last week, the council apprehended 3 people for stealing metal plate grave marks from Chunga and Leopards Hill cemeteries. And Mr. Sichimba has disclosed that the final report by the Director of Public Health has revealed that thieves stole grave marks from 43 graves in a space of 2 days.
According to the final report that have been submitted by the Director of Public Health, 43 graves were tampered with, meaning that they removed the grave marks from 43 graves according to the findings at the moment, and that shows that there could be many other graves that are affected that way. And so it's important that we preserve these things, because in future you may just want to go back and identify the grave where you buried a loved one or a relative. So it's those things are very, very important. It's not that they are put there for the sake of being put there. They work in an event that you want to identify that grave. So we want to appeal to people that are in this habit, that we are all of our people are patrolling all cemeteries, and residents also have partnered with Lusaka City Council. They are tipping us on these vices that are happening in the graveyards, including townships. So people should not think that they'll get away with it. They will definitely be apprehended and be handed over to police for the law to take its course.
I think the Tanzania-Zambia Railway Authority TAZARA, Zambia Railways Limited and Delta Energy Zambia have signed an agreement for the transportation of huge tons of fuels by rail. Speaking during the signing ceremony of the tripartite agreement in Lusaka, Zambia Railways Limited Managing Director Christopher Msonda says the agreement will culminate in the transportation of fuels for the Zambian government in line with the statutory instrument provision number 7 of 2018, which requires 30% of bulk cargo to be transported by rail. Mr. Msonda states that the signing of the trilateral agreement demonstrates the commitment that Zambia Railways Limited has in servicing its customers between Zambia and beyond the borders efficiently. He says the agreement will consolidate and provide further guidance to the business relationship and contribute to the strategic objectives of the parties involved.
We are all aware that in this country there's a rule now which mandates the movement of bulk and heavy commodities from road to rail. Fuels is one of those 6 commodities which has been identified by regulation, and therefore we would like to minimum move the 30% as stipulated. But in fact, we would like to move more, because the 30% is just a seed which has been planted, and we should grow it, if possible, to 100%, because that will mean making doing business for Zambia more attractive.
So we are happy as a railway to be given this opportunity. We are ready to take this challenge, and the 3 months that we have put should be used should be used very concisely in determining any shortfalls that are coming up. Just to echo what my colleague here has said, there will be some teething problems as we start, because we do not know so much about Delta, and Delta doesn't know so much about us.
and therefore these teething problems are going to occur as we start. But we should quickly resolve those issues and get to the levels which we are going to sign to.
Speaking at the same signing ceremony, Tazara Managing Director Bruno Chingand expressed happiness with the tripartite rail transport agreement, and Delta Energy Zambia Corporate Affairs Manager Betha Kalongolwa says the signing of the contract is a significant stride in the effective delivery of fuel on behalf of the Zambian people. She says the agreement further demonstrates the company's compliance to statutory instrument number 7 that compels businesses to transport at least 30% of their products through rail. To end the news, we recap on stories making headlines. President Kalungu has met with Vedanta Resources Limited Chairman Anil Agwal over the liquidation of mines. And NDC President SUMBWE has challenged government to make public the bill of quantities (BOQ) and other documents to provide that the construction of Bangolu Regional Hospital will cost $11 million US. Finally, Agriculture Minister Michael Katambo has implored players in the maize value chain to